How's it going, everybody? Too Spooky here. When it comes to the One Piece universe, the thing I've always been most knowledgeable about has been the many different devil fruits and how they operate. In fact, I'd even consider it my specialty. Because of that, I decided I'm going to be starting a series where we go over the different devil fruits individually, and really analyze what each fruit is capable of and how they work. But before we can get to them individually, I figured it would be a good idea to go over devil fruits as a whole. Everything from the different categories and subcategories, weaknesses, and other information surrounding the fruits in general. This way everyone can be refreshed on the information and maybe even learn something that you didn't know before. So in today's video, we are going to be explaining devil fruits. To begin, we're going to be quickly touching upon what little we know about the origins of devil fruits. As far as where devil fruits came from, we have yet to learn anything about their true origin, aside from Shanks mentioning that devil fruits supposedly came from the sea devil. In the beginning of One Piece, it was insinuated that devil fruits are very rare. So rare in fact that most people think of them as a myth until they see the devil fruit powers with their own eyes. This would of course drastically change later on, when we are seeing new devil fruits left and right, but this shows us that the vast majority of devil fruits exist within the Grand Line and New World, rather than in the different blues. Even though there seems to be an endless amount of devil fruits at this point, we still see examples of people not knowing they exist even in the New World. For instance, Shirahoshi had no clue of their existence, the people in Wano believe that the powers received from them are merely sorcery, and the women of Amazon Lily didn't know of their existence either. Appearance-wise, the devil fruits come in many different shapes and sizes, similar to normal fruit. But the easiest way to tell them apart from normal fruit would be that they are generally a different color and have a swirly pattern all over. And when eaten, these fruits apparently taste god-awful. But shortly after consumption, the user will learn what abilities the fruit contained, along with its name. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to consume the whole fruit to gain its abilities. Instead, only one bite is required for the powers to transfer to the individual who took the bite. It's not possible for multiple people to each take a bite out of the fruit to gain the same abilities. Instead, after the first bite, the fruit just becomes a normal, horrible tasting fruit. In addition to that, it is possible for a devil fruit to exist more than once, but never at the same time. When a person eats a devil fruit and obtains its power, that power will not exist anywhere else in the world until the current user dies. When they do eventually die, the devil fruit power will then be reborn into a new devil fruit of the same kind as before, where it can then be discovered by a different person and consumed, repeating the endless cycle. Because many of the devil fruits have existed multiple times in the past, a lot of them have been documented into a book called the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. We don't know much about the book itself because it has only been shown or mentioned a small handful of times, but we do know that the vast majority of devil fruits and their abilities can be found within the pages. However, most of them do not have an illustration to accompany the ability, so it's hard to identify the fruit before eating it. We also don't know how common this book is throughout the One Piece world, but we do know there is at least more than one copy. So I'm willing to bet this book is about as rare as finding a devil fruit itself. Before we move on, I should also mention that it's possible for inanimate objects to somehow consume a devil fruit and its abilities as well. The method was discovered by Vegapunk, but details of how this is possible have never been mentioned. When it comes to classifying a devil fruit, its classification can fall under 3 different categories: ZOAN, Logia, or Paramecia. ZOANs are devil fruits that grant the user the ability to transform into some sort of animal or creature. The majority of ZOANs have 3 different transformations, which are the human form, which is the individual's original form, the human beast form, which is where the user transforms into a mixture of both the original form and the fruit's respective animal, and then the beast form, which is where the user completely transforms into their respective animal or creature. It is possible for other transformations to be achieved through training or through outside sources, such as Chopper's Rumble Ball, but the average ZOAN user only has the 3 that we just listed. The main strength of ZOAN-type devil fruits is a significant physical strength boost, along with enhanced senses and any specific abilities granted from the specific animal or creature. ZOANs don't exactly have any specific specific weaknesses, but they are generally considered the weakest of the three categories, mainly because the majority of them rely on brute strength, and their strength is determined specifically on the strength of the animal or creature the fruit is representing. So if you gained the strength of, let's say, a wiener dog, you wouldn't exactly be able to become a Yonko anytime in the near future. Additional abilities are also achieved on a fruit-to-fruit basis, so a lot of them are specific to each individual user. But it's also possible to gain extra abilities depending on the animal in question. For instance, if the animal is some sort of bird, the user would also gain the additional ability to fly. I should also mention that if an animal were to eat a ZOAN fruit containing the abilities of the exact same species, it would give that animal absolutely no new abilities, but all the weaknesses of having a devil fruit power. So this category also comes with a small risk, because a human ZOAN devil fruit does exist, which was eaten by Chopper, so if a normal human person were to have eaten that fruit before Chopper came across it, they would have gained a grand total of 0 abilities, but all the normal devil fruit weaknesses. Logia are devil fruits that grant the user the ability to create, control, and transform into a specific element or force of nature. Depending on the element or force in question, the user is also granted numerous other abilities and techniques surrounding the existing properties of that element or force. Because Logia users are able to transform into their element, they become intangible in the process and can therefore easily avoid most attacks. Hockey attacks are the only way to truly hurt a Logia user aside from their natural weaknesses, but we'll touch upon those a little bit later. Not all Logia are able to become intangible though, however pretty much all of them can. Logia devil fruits are also considered the rarest of the 3 devil fruit categories. Finally, onto Paramecia. Paramecia devil fruits are a bit harder to outright explain or classify, but basically anything that is not already considered a Logia or ZOAN is considered Paramecia by default. Most Paramecia devil fruits grant some sort of superhuman ability or power, such as body modification, changes to the surrounding environment, producing a substance, or some other transformations that are not considered ZOAN. One thing I want to add before we move on to subcategories is that some of the Paramecia devil fruits are very similar to some of the Logia devil fruits, which confuses quite a few people when it comes to certain fruits classifications. I actually made a whole video discussing the difference between Logia and Paramecia a little while back, and how to tell the difference between the two. I highly suggest you go give it a watch after this video is over to better understand the difference and why certain fruits are classified the way they are. There will be a link in the description, otherwise feel free to give it a watch now and come back to this video afterwards. To begin, I should mention we have yet to see any subcategories in the Logia category, so we'll move right to Paramecia. The only subcategory for Paramecia that we know of right now is known as a special Paramecia. So far, we've only seen one devil fruit that actually falls under this subcategory, which is the Mochi Mochi no Mi. Now, we don't have an exact definition or explanation of what makes a special Paramecia in the first place, but it should be known that this particular fruit was originally labeled as a Logia, until its classification was changed in the volume release of the same chapter that it was named. From what I was able to deduce, a special Paramecia has almost all the same characteristics as a Logia. The user can transform their body into their respective substance, and they can create and control the substance outside of their body. The only two differences from a Logia would be that the user is not actually intangible, and instead only appears to be, and the substance in question is not an element or force of nature. I talk a little bit more about special Paramecias and how they could potentially operate in my differences between Logia and Paramecia video that I mentioned before, so once again feel free to check out that video for more potential information on this particular subcategory. Now, ZOANs have by far the most subcategories, so we'll go through these one at a time. The first we came across in the series is known as a carnivorous ZOAN. Now, carnivorous ZOANs aren't much different from a regular ZOAN, but what sets them apart from the latter would be that carnivorous ZOANs are generally animals animals that are naturally more predatory by nature, which makes them more dangerous and powerful in different aspects of combat. These animals in particular also usually have different potential weapons, such as very sharp teeth or sharp claws. Two examples of a carnivorous zoan would be the Inu Inu no Mi, model wolf, and the Neku Neku no Mi, model leopard, both of which are natural predators and bloodthirsty by nature. This bloodthirsty nature also generally carries over to the user themselves in battle, making them a force you don't want to mess with. The second zoan subcategory is known as an ancient zoan. Ancient zoans are a much rarer zoan type that allows the user to transform into extinct or prehistoric animals. We've only seen two examples of these so far, which are the Zozo no Mi, modeled mammoth, and X Drake's unnamed ancient zoan that allows him to transform into some sort of dinosaur. Naturally, as a huge mammoth and a dinosaur, ancient zoans are physically much bigger and stronger than your average zoan fruit. Like carnivorous zoans, the ancient zoans are also equipped with natural weapons like the huge tusks on the mammoth or very sharp claws and teeth on the dinosaur. At this given time, not much else is known about this category other than the fact that the animals in question can cause significantly more damage than normal zoans and carnivorous zoans. The third subcategory is known as a mythical zoan. Mythical zoans are a much rarer zoan type. In fact, mythical zoans are considered the rarest type of devil fruit in the series. Mythical zoans allow the user to transform into what can only be described as creatures found in myths and legends. The only two examples we've seen so far is the Hito Hito no Mi, model Daibutsu, and Marco's unnamed mythical zoan that allows him to transform into a phoenix. What's most unique about this category is that in addition to gaining that strength boost that every zoan receives, the mythical zoans also gain different abilities that make them seem like a Paramecia or even a Logia fruit as well. In fact, Marco's Phoenix fruit has characteristics of zoan, Paramecia, and Logia all in one, making it what I believe is the most versatile devil fruit in the series to date. We'll probably talk about these two fruits in separate videos later on down the line, but regardless, mythical zoans are essentially legends brought to life. The final zoan subcategory is more or less in a category of its own, which is the artificial zoan. Like we said earlier, Vegapunk found a way for inanimate objects to consume a devil fruit. Well, in addition to that, Vegapunk has also done numerous other experiments involving devil fruits, and in the process of all those experiments, he came up with a way to replicate a devil fruit. But apparently it was rather flawed. Caesar Clown then did his own research and was able to replicate his own version of artificial devil fruits called Smiles, which are the artificial zoans. These artificial zoan fruits are flawed in their own way, but also grants the consumer zoan-like abilities. The thing that puts artificial zoans aside from the regular ones would be the fact that artificial zoans only allow the user to partially transform into an animal rather than completely, such as being able to only transform the user's hands into bear claws, rather than the rest of his body also transforming into a bear and things like that. Every consumer of an artificial zoan also grows black horns for whatever reason. We currently don't know if these artificial zoans are subject to normal devil fruit weaknesses like a normal devil fruit, but we do know that they are said to come with unknown side effects due to the fact they are artificial. Now that we know all of the different categories, it's only natural to touch upon the weaknesses that every devil fruit user is susceptible to. The main weakness is essentially the sea itself, because once an individual consumes a devil fruit, they will no longer be able to swim or submerge themselves in water of any kind. If the devil fruit user were to attempt to swim, their body would become completely helpless in one way or another, such as sinking right to the bottom. Although it's very broad, there are a few different specifics surrounding this weakness, however. For instance, the user will not be affected by moving water, and instead only water that is still. So water such as rain or waves will have no effect on the user. It's also possible for the user to submerge themselves underwater, so long as their body is not touching the water. So if the user were to be wearing, let's say, scuba gear that covered their entire body, it would be possible for them to swim underwater without becoming helpless and drowning. The user will also be unaffected by very small bodies of water. This weakening effect only occurs once the user is knee-deep in water. So if the water barely covers their feet, for instance, they will remain completely unaffected. Once the user is in this weakened state, they will be completely unable to use their devil fruit abilities. However, if the user's body was permanently changed from the ability in question, it can still be manipulated by others, such as when Luffy was completely submerged underwater by Arlong, but other individuals were still able to stretch his neck above the water so that he could breathe. It should also be noted that fishmen have the ability to breathe underwater, so if a fishman were to eat a devil fruit, they would also lose their ability to swim, but if they fell in the water, they wouldn't drown, they'd just be sitting at the bottom of the sea unable to move, and consequently not dying instantly because they can still breathe just fine. If nobody came for them, they'd just, eventually starve. So either way, a devil fruit user's biggest weakness is the sea itself, especially since the majority of devil fruit users are pirates or marines that are sailing the seas, so a risk of falling in the sea and drowning is always lingering. The next big devil fruit weakness is a mineral, which is known as sea stone. This mineral apparently emits the same energy as the sea, and therefore whenever it is in direct contact with a devil fruit user, the user will fall under the same type of helplessness as if they were submerged under the sea itself. The only difference is that the amount of sea stone in contact with the user does make a difference. For instance, the Marines developed special sets of sea stone handcuffs that will weaken a devil fruit user and nullify their abilities, but the user will still be able to walk along with other physical movements, so they aren't completely paralyzed as if they were under the sea. Being completely surrounded by sea stone will also generally weaken the devil fruit user even if they aren't directly touching it. The sea stone can also be formed into different weapons, such as a spear or even bullets. The bullets are technically not canon, but personally I feel like it could be possible, and I also feel this would be the most dangerous example of sea stone to date, as it could easily kill a devil fruit user of any kind. The other devil fruit weaknesses are a case-by-case basis, involving natural weakness and superiorities. Natural weaknesses are pretty straightforward. You see, a natural weakness to a different fruit is based on the makeup of the two abilities, such as fire being naturally weak to water, or snow being naturally weak to heat. As far as how superiorities go, some devil fruits have abilities that are strikingly similar, like they're almost the exact same fruit. But either by nature or simply by the abilities, the devil fruit in question is superior to a different devil fruit, such as the Tun Tun no Mi being vastly superior to the Kilo Kilo no Mi. Both of them are essentially the same ability of weight manipulation, but the Tun Tun no Mi can become much heavier than the Kilo Kilo no Mi, making it the superior of the two, or as we saw with the Magu Magu no Mi and the Mera Mera no Mi. In the case of One Piece, magma is listed as a higher order than fire, which is why Sakazuki was able to overpower Ace's fire abilities with his magma abilities. You could argue that fire is technically naturally stronger than magma, but in One Piece that just isn't the case, and magma is instead superior to fire. It should also be noted that armament haki is technically considered a devil fruit weakness, as this haki allows someone to bypass natural devil fruit defenses for a head-on attack. But haki is a topic for another video, so I'm not going to go any further with it today. In some very rare cases, it's possible for devil fruit users to awaken their devil fruit, which further increases the abilities of the user in some way. And from what we've seen, this increase is fairly drastic. I'll definitely touch upon awakening more in a future video, since at the moment we don't know a whole lot about it right now. For instance, we currently have no idea how someone even goes about awakening their devil fruit in the first place. From what we've seen with Paramecia, both current examples of awakening were able to change the surrounding environment into the substance that they can produce from their own bodies, and further manipulate the transformed environment, making their abilities seem much more like a Logia in comparison. And when it comes to ZOANs, the awakened ZOAN user appears to transform into a gigantic version of their respective animal, gaining even more strength, but at the cost of seemingly appearing less human and more animal by nature, and also seeming less intelligent. At this point in time, we have yet to see what an awakened Logia Devil Fruit user could possibly be capable of doing, but I can imagine it'll be pretty catastrophic. You may be wondering why people don't try to get their hands on multiple devil fruits to further increase their strength with 2 different abilities. From what we've learned from Blueno's statement to Jabra, Grand Line scientists have experimented with the effects of eating 2 devil fruits in the past, and doing so results in the individual's body destroying itself from the inside, to the point where their own body will explode without a trace. Rob Lucci even commented that it's enough of a risk to eat just 1 devil fruit, and eating 2 is just asking for death. This rumor, or perhaps this evidence, has spread throughout the One Piece world, which is why no one that we know of has attempted to eat more than 1 fruit. That being said, somehow Blackbeard was able to consume 2 devil fruits and harness both respective abilities without his body exploding. We currently don't know how this is possible, if it has something to do with his original fruit, the Yami Yami no Mi, or something else entirely, or maybe the research about 2 devil fruits causing you to explode just isn't true. Either way, Blackbeard seems to be the only exception to this rule thus far, and it's currently unknown if he's able to eat even more than 2. But on that note, that's pretty much everything you'll need to know about the general information of devil fruits. Obviously, there's some information that I left out, but it's a bit hard to touch upon everything in just one video. So if you guys learned something new, or you just gained a better understanding of devil fruits as a whole, well, be sure to drop a like. I would really appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And like I said earlier, be sure to comment which individual devil fruits you would like to learn about next, since we're going to be covering a lot of them individually in a new series. If you can't get enough One Piece content, well, be sure to click here for the difference between Logia and Paramecia like I suggested earlier for even more helpful information. Otherwise, click here for the top 10 wasted devil fruits in One Piece. Or click here for 5 facts about the zombies from Thriller Bark. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.